today's workshop is going to be about incorporating core and talking about core and actually coaching core, right? So when it comes to core, what do you guys in general? How do you guys go about coaching the core to your clients and explaining it currently? There's no wrong answer to this. Like, what is your, and in reference to that, is like, what is your philosophy behind coaching core?
That you should always be using it.
You should always be using it.
So
okay.
I try to teach them ways to be bracing all the time, because that's their biggest problem. Is like they know what it feels like to be using it, but they don't know how to be bracing.
They don't know how to brace it, and it tends to go on most layers: males, females, new or advanced, right?
Everybody.
So, okay.
It's a foundation.
I used to tell them you need a strong core to protect your lower back, protect your spine, everything along that, and then that's why I need a core for.
Right. Right. So let's circle back to, for example, anatomy as an example. So we look at anatomy. What would we consider the muscles of the core itself? Going back to EFTI.
Rectus spinae, diaphragm,
First abdominis,
Rectus abdominis. Yep.
transverse abdominis,
transverse.
obliques,
Obliques. There's internal and external obliques, right?
and then there's the internal and external core.
Internal and external core. Yeah. So there's a lot of layers that go along with it, right? So obviously you can or don't have to go into the details on the anatomy with your clients, but in reference to like explaining things, it's good to have an understanding of it. So I like to always I always utilize analogies to create explanations, because it once again, you think in images. When you think in images and you create an image with your conversational meaning, things connect a lot faster. If you go into all these technical terms that we just went into, it's either going to click or not, right? And if it doesn't click on them, then what's the whole purpose of that session? Correct? Let me borrow that little water bottle there. So the shaker bottle, right? So imagine the shaker bottle, but kinked here, and then kind of broken in half. Okay? And then this other side protruding out, as an example. So if I was to kink it kind of like a can of Coke, right? It would look something like that. So can you guys visualize that as of right now? So that can of Coke, or this water bottle broken in half, or broken at the top, would kind of symbolize this ribcage kinking out. Okay. So I want to imagine my trunk being like a real, like an actual barrel full of, oil, or a shaker bottle filled with liquid in it. Okay. And that's how I want to visualize the core. In the most layman's terms we can put it. Okay? If I allow this can of Coke or shaker bottle to kink, and then I add pressure on top of the top end, what happens? It'll probably crack, right? It'll probably break at a certain point in time. But if I put pressure on it directly when it's in a nice solid position, it's harder to break. Have you guys ever tried that the egg contest where you try to break an egg by actually pressing on both ends, and it's actually extremely hard to break? Same concept. So if you take an egg that can be easily breakable by tapping it and then cracking it as so, but take that same egg before you cracked it and try to press it on both ends as hard as you can, it's probably a lot harder to break, because you're using those natural internal forces in a positive way. Make sense? So, with that as a reference, if I take a barbell and set it up as so, right? What is the difference between this going into my squat pattern, braids going into my squat pattern, right? This going into my squat pattern, squat pattern. Going into this here, brace, going into my deadlift pattern, and then brace again, going into my deadlift pattern. What is the difference in all that?
Where the pressure is coming from.
Where the pressure's coming from, okay. Yeah. But as far as the actual structure that I'm working with, what is the difference?
You're keeping yourself nice and stable so you're upright. Not allowing yourself to crumble over. Yeah.
So we'll say it and don't take it and run with it and say that it goes as a universal approach, right? But we'll say that all those patterns in some way or form are the exact same thing in reference to the core, okay? So more often than not, we get excited, we come in here, start doing deadlifts without warming up, right? I did too, so it's okay, no worries. And we don't properly set the boundaries on how we're going to be doing the movement pattern. So a lot of times, and I definitely talk about this more often than not. Whenever I coach, it's almost like a little mosquito in your ear after you're done with me, right? But the idea is make these complicated terms or complicated thoughts simple. Okay, so if I was to talk about core and Jessica was to talk about core, we'd probably have different terms and different ways of explaining it because she has Pilates background. But when it comes to lifting, the same result comes in. I need to make sure that that little can is not able to crumble. Correct? So, properly exhaling is the idea, right? So we teach crocodile breathing. So when I say crocodile breathing, what am I referring to?
Breathing into your diaphragm.
Breathing into the diaphragm, correct? And you want to coach breathing into the diaphragm, but when it comes to an actual loaded lift, you want to teach proper exhalation, true exhalation. Because when you create true exhalation, what are we creating? Pressure, intra-abdominal pressure. We're making this little can of Coke or this shaker bottle well pressurized so that way I can withstand whatever pressure we're putting onto it.
Stomach to rise.
So I'm looking for this to pop up, right? The abdomen. And if the abdomen is popping up, what is that telling me that the person is utilizing to mainly breathe, to allow the abdomen to come up? Kali said it a second ago.
Diaphragm.
My diaphragm. I'm learning how to use my diaphragm. The diaphragm pops up this way. When you breathe in, what does it do? It bowls down. So it's a bowl that is facing up. When I take a breath in, the bowl turns upside down. So all that pressure pushes everything out this way, therefore allowing my abdomen to pop up, right? As far as proper exhalation, let's think stacking the diaphragm over the pelvic floor. Stacking the diaphragm over the pelvic floor, I'm taking a breath in, I'm gonna brace, I'm gonna close off the rib cage, and I'm gonna make sure that everything is stacked. And when everything is stacked, the rib cage is closed off, right? Now I have a stacked diaphragm over the pelvic floor, right? Therefore, creating that shaker bottle effect. So breath in, exhale, stack the pelvic floor up below the diaphragm, and that creates the nice enclosed area. All those internal forces that we just now talked about, that is the actual isolation of it, right? Now, laying down on the ground is the most basic way of approaching, okay? And I would say that don't skip that because it's easy to forget about that once you start adding the bar to the picture. Because if we oversee that within the preliminary pattern building, then we're going to have a frustration when we're actually trying to get the person loaded. Who here gets frustrated? especially when you're putting in so many sessions in the day, and it's like this is the same conversation that I had with my previous interaction prior to you. Why are we not getting it? Okay, so hopefully what I'll be putting you guys through will be kind of assisting you in kind of at least fine-tuning that a little bit more, so that way you're able to kind of really pinpoint that a little bit more. Questions so far?
When you're doing that crocodile breathing, is there like any cue there of having them like push into the ground, or is it just more accurate to have them like breathe over the face? When
So-
you're describing how to do it to the client?
To the crocodile breathing?
Yeah. Like, is there any pushing down into the floor, or is it more just implementing yourself?
So, crocodile breathing, I only did that for the purpose of us seeing it. Yes. Claudia?
I had something to add on.
Yeah, no, go. Okay.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah. So I would usually teach crocodile breathing facing down. Because if I'm going to teach crocodile breathing, I want some kind of feedback that speaks to the person along with what I'm verbally telling them. So I want to find an external feedback source that's going to basically give them the same message as what I'm verbally saying. So when you connect the verbal aspect and the kinesthetic aspect of coaching within that same interaction, forget about the auditory aspect, right? If they feel it, they know what you're talking about. So if I'm going to breathe, I'm either going to push the fingers up against the side of the abdomen as an additional external source. But what I want to see is I want to see my back raise off the ground, right? I also want to see the outer portion of my abdomen kind of popping out a little bit, okay? Babies are the best crocodile breathers there are, right? That's including puppies. But we breathe through our stomach. So a lot of times when we are stressed out in the thigh area, as an example, or the professional world, we start to breathe from where? Our chest. And that's not good, because if I'm not allowing my diaphragm to fully cave down, I'm not taking in a full source of oxygen into my body. Correct? I'm breathing through here. I'm using my chest muscles as a breathing muscle, as opposed to using what I should be using as a breathing muscle. So I would say, to answer your question, I would use the floor as the main external source to let the person know where they should be feeling it. I want you to be feeling like your stomach is pushing up against the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had them lay on their back before and use like a sandbag or a weight too, so they can see it. Like,
Okay. So laying on their back, and
lay
then
on their back and put something like not really heavy, but like a little bit heavy on there. Or like if that's too distracting, just have one hand here and one hand here. I'm like, you want this hand to go up and this hand not to. Like,
and you're thinking to yourself, like, this is all very basic stuff. Why would somebody be interested in that? This is where you need to be true to yourself and understand that this is science. You can't outdo science. If we skip that because it's not fun, because it's not sexy, then we're skipping the whole point of like what we do, right? Because if we don't know how to breathe the right way, or if a person doesn't know how to breathe the right way, they're gonna basically fall apart at a certain point in time within the program as we go, right? So proper exhalation. Let's sneak on over here. So fast forwarding to, you've already done crocodile breathing, they know how to breathe through their stomach, everything's moving the right way. Now let's talk about properly exhaling, okay? So these are cook bands that are gonna serve to be one of your best friends. Not the only best friend, but one of your best friends. Coaching. So if I take this cook band, and if I sit back here, as an example, okay? I'm not going to introduce the cook band until I get the preliminary stuff in the big stuff. Can you just some of that for me, Kyle? So I will use the cook band in a second, but first I want to set the frame first. Okay? That's fine. You can set it there for a second. So I'm going to teach proper exhalation by going into a very primitive pattern, a dead bug position. Okay? So a dead bug position. I would say the progress version of a dead bug position is this. You see that? Why is that a progress position for a dead bug? Because I need to work to keep my pelvis in that position, right?
if I bring my knees at about 65 degrees, now I'm allowing my pelvis to be in a neutral position, and I can actually have a natural but not overly extended lumbar curvature. Correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm laying down here, 65 degrees at the angle here, and I'm going to get a breath in from this position here, and I'm going to exhale, breathe in through my stomach, and then exhale. Focus on closing off the rib cage as I come through. So Kylie, come on over here real quick. So Kylie's going to put her hands right below my lower back for a second, and I'm going to take a big breath in, and I'm going to exhale, and she'll notice something when I do it the right way. What do you notice?
Can't catch my hand.
It's trying to hurt me, right? So when I close my rib cage, when I exhale the right way, all of a sudden, whatever kink I had on that can is now being fixated into a nice neutral position. That makes sense so far? Okay. So the beauty of that is what I'm teaching is proper breathing pattern. So that's one progression. Let's follow through here. Now from here, I'm going to think about doing the same thing. Close off the rib cage, sniffing some air through my nose for a second, and then I'm going to continue the accentuation point of it. So I'm further accentuating this by exhaling further and reaching further. Coming through. So when I do that, now I'm purely isolating a true locked-in position. Okay? So how does that connect into, for example, a quote-unquote deadlift? Let's look at it. If I look at the setup here, and I'll actually use one of you guys as an example. If I come here and I do a straight leg raise, I think we've all done this before, but this is how to actually coach this the right way, at least in my perspective. Okay. So if I bring my leg up here, what are we doing here? First of all, why are we doing this exercise? Stretching the hamstring, yeah, and also hip patterning. Okay, because when we walk around on a daily basis, there's always going to be one side that's loaded while another side is swinging. Okay? So we can still walk, but we often forget about the importance of hip stabilization as we're walking, which if the hips are not doing what they should be doing, one side should be stable as I'm stepping while the other side is swinging, and vice versa when I switch sides. If it continues to stay stable, meaning the pelvis, as I should be swinging, that's creating discrepancies of the chain. Make sense? So basically, I'm creating stability and then mobility or disassociation on the other side. So if you look at this here, I'm just going to keep my lower abdomen relaxed and do what I should be doing, which is raise that other leg, right? So if I'm here, and then Kali puts her hand on my lower back again, okay? Watch my leg here, okay? Big breath in. What happened there? I'm not pulling more. It's just basically fixing itself because now I'm bracing my core. I'm creating a nice stable surface to work off of. From there, then I can pop up, and guess what? Because I'm flattening out my lower back, I'm stabilizing my lower back before I create any extra motion. You're taking a long lever, and you're trying to create tension on it. And if this pillar, the lower back or the pelvic floor, is not preset, what am I doing? Huh? I'm rocking back and forth. Mm-hmm. I'm unstable. Right? So let's have one of my boys that is not very flexible pop out. What do you guys?
Literally the pick of the litter. I'm gonna jump.
I'm gonna do.
All right.
So taking this simple exercise and applying it with him, right? Back. So if you set up here, softly, both toes are facing up. So me as the coach, I'm looking at his toe, and I have to make sure that that toe is facing straight up, okay? So right now he's relaxed down here, right? So don't hurt yourself, create some good tension here, and raise that lower leg up. It's pretty manageable, right? So what I want you to do at the bottom, I want you to relax for a second, take a big breath into your stomach, and then exhale. I'm going to create some pressure here to let it, you see what happened there? Come back again, relax. Big breath in, and then exhale.
literally me pressing on the trigger cage to assure that it is where it needs to be, isolates where it should be. You can feel that, right? You can really feel this popping up. You feel this being more stable. Now, maintain that integrity there before you come back up. So keep that position, sniffing some air through your nose real quick, and then pop it up real slow. Good. So if we were to take an image of the first one before we added the second one, there should have probably been maybe about this much of a discrepancy. Sometimes more, right? So that's an example of just that small little cue added into the picture makes a world of a difference, and he understands exactly what I mean, because if he sees that come up and he feels that, let's say the first set he didn't do it the right way, let's say he felt some back tension on that. Why would he be feeling so much back tension? We just said that a second ago, right? If this isn't properly set, he doesn't have a good base to work on. If he sets the vertebra from here to a stacked position, now he's good to roll, right? So he's got a solid base to work off of. So we always talk about foundation. If I don't set that foundation, that big lever that's coming up is going to create a lot of tension at the home. Right? You all agree on that? Cool. So that's taking that same example of a dead bug and how it can actually layer into a progressed version of a single leg raise. Okay? So these little micro coaching techniques are all valued in their own respective way. If we take our time and trust the process. Because at the end of the day, if I skip through this and I go right into deadlifts, he will fall into back pain, and it's not going to be his fault. It's going to be my fault, right? So whenever my client falls into an issue, I never think, what did you do wrong? I always think to myself, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better to make him or her understand where the end result should be, or actually achieving that point where we're at now, right? So if I'm set up here, now we're taking a progression of the dead bug. Put the brother up. All right, so we just did the same dead bug, right? Now we're gonna add an additional external feedback to this. I'm in position here. How many degrees at the hips? 65. So 90, too much curvature. 65, I'm nice and safe. All right, so if I'm in position here, I'm gonna create tension down. So when I pull on the band, what am I doing?
Activating the lats.
Huh? Lats are coming active, right? I'm dialed in, tension. I'm actually going to create external rotation simultaneously. I'm pressing down, I'm bracing it, right? So without even adding the exhalation technique just yet, I'm already starting to basically get rid of the kinks of that little can already as it is, right? So imagine like once again, that little pan all messed up, right? I'm pulling down, the little pan is now, oh, hold up, I feel some tension, right? Now I've got the little bit of that kink taken off. I'm gonna take a big breath in, close off the ribcage. You can see that shift that just happened, right? I'm gonna sniff in some air through my nose, and I'm gonna exhale as I reach and maintain that position. You can see that I'm shaking. This is not easy. Or maybe I'm just weak. I don't know, right? So have somebody else pop in on this real quick. Who wants to be my person? Hop on in, Colin. So once again, this is a band that has pretty good tension, so you don't need a lot of distance. Okay? So what Kali's gonna do is she's gonna position herself, nice and set up. I want her to extend the arms, create external rotation right off the bat from that position there. And she's gonna take a breath in and then exhale as she pulls this down. Not all the way down, just here straight up. So if you don't have enough tension to depress the shoulders, you can scoot down a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So literally, she's doing this. External rotation, right? Okay. All right, so she's got her set up. Arms are extended, okay? External rotation, good. You can feel those lats right off the bat, right? So take a breath in here. Bring the knees a lot closer. Flex the toes, keep that there. Take a breath in, external rotation, and then drive. Keep the elbow straight for me. Elbow straight. She's gonna take a breath in through her nose, and then exhale as she reaches straight up to the ceiling. So reach straight up to the ceiling. Good, you feel that, right? So if anything, she has too much tension right now. So scoot back this way a little bit. You strong, but baby, calm down. All right, so here we go. Straighten out, external rotation, get a big breath in, and then reach. Exhale as you reach. Reach. Now keep that position there. There you go. Good. Come back down. Take a big breath in. Exhale. Locked in. Don't reach just yet. Over here. Breath in, and then reach straight to the ceiling. Okay? Good. Relax. You feel that, right? It's quite the challenge. Now we're going to progress this even further. All right? So the progression for this, what do you guys think it's going to be?
Extending those legs out a little bit more.
Yeah. So extending those legs out a little bit more, but as I extend out, I have to make sure that I maintain the integrity at the hips, right? Pilates?
Well, there's a step in between if you want to do it.
Sure,
which
talk to me.
Kind of dial one back for something recently.
Yeah.
Instead of extending the legs all the way out, like it can be a little bit of a nice but keep them bent and just touch down. So
There you
that
go.
it's not as
So
long.
let's do that. So this is great. So this is not me just taking over. I like that because I want you guys all to chip in. If you know of something else, cool. I want you to pop
I
it
just
in.
ran into this recently. Right?
No, I like that. I like that. So Kali's gonna do the regress version first. All right, you good, Kali? All right, so arms are extended. Straighten them out. The elbows, good. Take a breath in. Sniffing through your nose. So the reason why I use the word sniffing through your nose, what do you guys think I say that for? So I don't hold my breath, but because I don't want them to lose their integrity here. If I say take another breath in, it collapses. So sniffing some air allows them to keep the integrity here before they add an additional layer to what I've already set up. Okay? So she's set up. Yeah. So in this version, because the tension is out this way, it's irrelevant. If it was overhead or actually pressing pattern, I would say don't fully extend. Good question. You guys catch that? Okay, so she's going to be in this position. Brace, sniffing some air. Exhale as you reach. Good. Keep that position. Okay. Now, sniffing some air and drop one heel down while keeping the intention here. Sniffing some air. Other side. There you go. She's only going to do one per side. Come back down again. Reason why is because she is going to get really tired after dropping one leg at a time. It's very challenging. Yes?
I think
What's that?
I think the rest of it is more challenging than the heel drop.
The heel drop wasn't back. Okay, cool.
The regression. Do you add a feet tapping down before you would have her hold at 90?
Yes.
Okay.
So the next progression for that will be driving the heels away. Now, once again, I want to use a verbal image that's gonna really click in. Has anybody seen, at least seen an episode or a scene of Indiana Jones when the walls are coming towards each other, right? So I want to use that reference, at least in my example. There's an Indiana Jones wall coming at you. I want you to leg press that wall away from you. Okay? So I want you to keep that toe flexed towards your forehead, and I want you to drive that heel away from you, pushing that wall away, meaning I don't want you to drop that leg now. It's a straight line, okay? Where people would mess this one up is they're actually driving out, but they're dropping the leg at the same time. So the reason why I want a straight line is because it allows you to, once again, keep the integrity of the hip bone. Fair? Single. So single and alternating, okay? So put yourself in position. Arms are extended, sniffing some air, reach, keep that position, sniffing some air, drive one wall away. So right now she dropped the leg, that's too much, bring it back, you're gonna drive straight up. There it is, good. Come back, sniffing some air, drive. Good, bringing it back, relax. Good. Make sense? Now let's say we progress this further, right? I think it was maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago I talked about the pullover, right? You might give me one of those 8-kilogram kettlebells real quick. So taking this exact same pattern and tap into a pullover. Everybody knows what a pullover is, like a dumbbell pullover, right? Believe it or not, most of us tend to do this pattern wrong. Not us, but people that we see. Right? Not us.
We good. We perfect. Perfect workout, right? All right. So hop on up real quick.
So we're taking this exact same pattern and we're layering. So today's workshop is core and how it transfers into our daily pattern, right? So if I'm set up here, I've got my setup here. Once again, I've got the kettlebell. I want to use a kettlebell, and here's the reason why. The way the handles are set up is perfect for this exercise. So same setup, 65 degrees, flexing the toes, locked in. I've got my kettlebell here. I'm going to create what I refer to as a corkscrew tension. Okay? So locked in, locking those shoulders in place. And then from here, I'm going to get a breath in once again, verbalizing that same cue. Breath in, exhale, come through. And it's a full stop. Come through, full stop. Okay? So, it's taking the same thing that we did with the legs, but now we're using the opposite side of the limb, right? So now we're connecting those long levers that we have, meaning our limbs, into the picture, and we're sourcing them as our challenge for the core itself, right? So when I'm doing this, that pullover pattern, I'm working my serratus anterior. What's the serratus anterior do? What does it do? It keeps you upright. It does something with the scapula, yeah. Protraction of the scapula, right? It's the boxing muscle, okay? So the serratus anterior basically attaches behind the shoulder blade and it comes forward and it attaches to the side of your abdomen. It looks like little fingertips, right? So you're doing that. You're also working your lats at the same time. Where your lats start at? Start down here, right? And where do they end? They fan up and they attach here, right? And they're responsible for internal rotation and extension. That pullover pattern, I'm doing external rotation and flexion, right? So I'm working against the grind to an extent, against what the lat is made to do. Therefore, I'm working the lat in that pattern, right? So that all counteracts with locked in, coming through, right? And I'm closing off the rib cage. Now, we often fall across an issue with the rib cage opening up. What patterns do we fall across with the rib cage opening up, other than deadlift and squat? Anything with your hands above your head. So guess what? We're coaching an overhead pattern right now. We're teaching how to engage the core for this. So it transfers into an overhead pattern. So if I'm gonna go into coaching an overhead pattern, I got soft knees, baby. All right, so if I'm gonna do an overhead pattern, sorry, Collie, she's like, damn it. All right, so if I'm gonna do an overhead pattern, I would usually coach a kneeling versus standing first. Why is that? Basic support, so elaborate. Because I'm kneeling down? Okay. It's challenging me. It challenges me more to be kneeling down. And here's the reason why. It challenges me more to be kneeling down because when I'm kneeling down, I'm taking away any kind of assistance below my hips. If I'm standing up, I'm very comfortable with standing up. Sure, right? Athletic stance, right? But if I'm here, yeah, it's a big challenge. But most of the time, we're going to teach something like this, right? If I'm kneeling down, now I'm cutting off from the knee down. So whatever muscles or extra momentum that I can use with my knees is being taken away altogether, right? So if I'm going to do an overhead press, I'm in position. I may actually start out with the same kneeling knee as the side that I'm pressing. Now that is by design, okay? Because it's going to be considered a quote-unquote corrective along with the pattern itself, okay? Because once I'm kneeling, when I take the mass and I press over my head after I've executed this, right? What am I doing? I'm basically isolating what may be tight on the quad, right? You guys remember that Coach RT3 went into like a lunge? And he had you guys all do a lunge. What did he have you guys do? Something like this, flexing the back glute, and then doing this pattern. What did you guys feel? There's a lot of release in the quad, right? So when the quad is releasing because you're kneeling, it's because there's so much tension here. So when I bend the knee, I'm having to stretch that quad, correct? So if I'm already stretching the quad just by kneeling down, it's what I'm punching that glute. I've already got good complex work on the hip and quad, right? When I take that mass on the same side that I'm kneeling on, now I'm accentuating that pattern even more. Because as an end result, because this is normally tight on most of us, we want to basically fall into this position. So we're counteracting the temptation of this fall position, right? Position, quad and glute is in the picture, coming through. So as I reach up overhead, the rib cage stays closed. All right, so let's say, for example, we transfer over into progressing into a deadlift or a hinge, right? So let's say we're taking the same little band here. And we're coaching a deadlift. I'm going to coach a deadlift in a different way. Anti-rotation, okay? So if I step over here and I bring this band to my side, what am I doing? Stabilizing the core. Maybe hop on over this way. Yeah? Anti-lateral flexion, right? So the forces are, if I was to give into the forces, what would I be doing?
Lateral flexion.
Pull out this way, right? Okay. So if I'm gonna pull this in, as so, automatically I'm doing what? What am I engaging? Adducting, right? So I'm adducting, getting a lot of lats, but I have to be very comfortable with being in an external rotation position, because when I pull this in, I'm going to go towards what I consider to be the path of least resistance, which is going to be this. Do you want this? Probably not, right? So I'm probably going to have open my hand out a little bit, external rotation. I'm going to pull, have my feet shoulder width apart. If I want to make this really challenging, I have them really close, just like Holly said a second ago, right? So feet shoulder width apart. Usually a good rule of thumb is inside seam of the armpit. Inside seam of the armpit, external rotation. I'm gonna get a breath in, and I'm gonna exhale as I drive my hips back. Come back up, punch through. So I'm driving those hips back as I go through the motion. Give this a try, Holly. Don't stand so far away because it's pretty challenging. So when I'm coaching a deadlift, there's a couple of cues that I use, right? So let's imagine that she does have a bar. That she does have a bar in her hand. When she's driving into a deadlift pattern, she's gonna be driving back, so don't have an intention, just basically driving to the deadlift pattern. She's driving back, she's counteracting the natural temptation of flop and fold. So she's resisting that by keeping her shoulder blades towards her back pocket, right? There should be a vertical shin position in most cases. So I'm gonna verbalize hiding the shoelaces with the bar. So she's coming down to the deadlift pattern. She's gonna hinge back. So drive the hips back. Back. So pause right there. Right about here, she's gonna need some assistance. And that assistance will be her knees taking over at that point in time, right? Because the end of the hip emphasis has stopped here. Right here, she's starting to bend her knees a little bit more. She's still driving those hips back, but bending the knees a little bit more. A little bit more. Right there. So that'll be probably her end range of motion at this point, right? So you see how her shoulders want to fall forward? I want to keep these babies back. Okay? So there's a lot of natural temptations taking place already, and now I'm complicating it with that band. So there's a lot of thinking involved. Oh, she's getting smart.
They make me fall over.
Don't fall over, girls. At least you're matching socks. All right, so she's got her setup here.
she's gonna create tension. She's gonna create external rotation on both ends, even though this side's not loaded. I want her to mirror it. Anatomical position. She's gonna take a breath in, sniff in some air, exhale, raise, sniff in some air again, and then drive those hips back as she focuses on keeping this nice and snug. Elbows are straight for me. Back pocket, good. Don't fold over too much, that should be your point. And then come back up. Take a breath again. Sniff in some air. Rebrace. Good. Sniff in some air. And then drive those hips back. There's a straight line right here. Imagine that bar hiding those shoelaces. Drive those hips back, 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 back. Good, right there. Now hold that for a second. 3, 2, 1. Come back up. Good. Pinch the glutes up top. You feeling that challenge? What are you feeling?
That's what I find all the time. I'm like, oh, that's a great question. I mean, I'm feeling the normal places, but I think I'm feeling, quite honestly, I'm feeling where I should feel it. This is a little bad.
Yeah. So a low back. So as an example with this would be an advanced version, right? If they don't quite get it right off the bat, they are going to feel the wrong areas. So this is where taking a step back into all those preliminary patterns that aren't very fun are going to help out a lot more once you progress to this point. So maybe we didn't warm up, you know? So because we didn't warm up, you're not going to be as intrinsically prepared to re-engage that beforehand. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, hear the feedback. So if she tells me I'm feeling the low back on that, perhaps it's my time to troubleshoot. So why don't I just switch it over to a more of a neutral pattern? So relax. So what she's going to do now is we're still going to do the exact same movement pattern, but more sagittal plane, right? So if I take the setup, I'm taking a step back. In a perfect world, right? In a perfect world, I would probably start out with this movement pattern before I went into the frontal plane, okay? Because that was more like a frontal plane pattern, okay? Sagittal plane, I would be in this setup here. I would step back, have both toes forward, and I'm gonna basically hinge back from that position. Same cues. Shoulder blades towards the back pocket, hiding what? The shoelaces. So I'm gonna drive those hips back. Right about here's the end of my hip pattern, right? Right about that point, I'm gonna start bending my knees along. So drive the hips back, take a breath in, raise, sniff in some air, pull, keep that engagement. I'm gonna hold it for about 5 seconds or so, and I'm capitalizing on back pocket, keeping that position, keeping my eyes down towards the ground like I would with a normal deadlift, because I don't look up like this, right? I should be here.
So you're not retracting the shoulder blades, right? You're still keeping them.
I'm retracting them a little bit. I'm retracting them a little bit. From here, I'm gonna stand up, then follow through, right? So I'm teaching pre-engagement of the shoulders, because when I do a deadlift, version over here, I'm teaching how to pre-engage before the lift, is what I'm doing. So I'm teaching this. Pre-engage. Pre-engage.
So it's more you want it posterior and not lateral.
What's that?
So it's that we want the shoulder blade to be posterior and down to
Yeah, retract it and back.
retract.
So you want to retract it and then depress. Make sense?
If my thighs overly retract without.
Yeah, you don't want to overly retract. So you got to find that fine line, right? So, and it takes practice, because once again, they're probably over retracting because they're letting this open up, right? So if I engage this pretty good, I'm not gonna, I mean, I probably will. It will take some coaching, but it takes breaking the bar, retracting, and depressing all in one shot. So that's a lot of complexity for just the beginning of the lift itself. So I'm not gonna go into this up until I actually do this movement pattern, and I have executed in such a way that I'm very comfortable with it. So I'm driving back, hinge, pull, retract and depress, right? You see that? Retract and depress, and then maintain that position. So literally, I have the person hold it for between 4 to 5 seconds, because those 4 to 5 seconds is what's allowing them to really feel and fixate on the discipline that it takes to pre-engage before the lift. Because if I don't pre-engage before I lift, I have not earned the deadlift. If I don't pre-engage before I lift the squat, I have not earned the squat, right? So I have to earn that pattern before I actually get into doing it. It doesn't mean that I can't do it. It just means that in order to maintain longevity in that movement pattern and continue to do that movement pattern, I need to make sure that I'm really fixated on the details so that way it makes sense to them.